morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pittsburgh Airlines, just preparing for takeoff. I feel like it's in this bracket, never mind. It's a delightful 8 degrees Celsius, 7:03 a.m. We're going to hit the skies. And what a beautiful sunny morning it is. Hey, Hendo, hello. Welcome aboard. Please take a seat. No seats are allocated on this flight. You just sit wherever the fuck you want. And I hope you brought snacks because we don't serve snacks or beverages during this flight. Pittsburgh Airlines operates on a budget. A very tight budget. We only just put tyres on the plane because we realised that helped with takeoff and landing. A bit rough before we put the wheels on the plane. Cement shoes, g'day. No, it's Monday morning here. I'm in the future, Hendo. Monday morning. How has the temperature dropped 1 degree in that from leaving my house to now? Clearly, I live on the same side of the street, or at least the warmer side of the street. Bloody rainy, so I will be obviously paying a lot of attention to the roads because one thing I discovered in my travels around the world is it doesn't matter where you live, when it rains, people start driving like fucking lunatics. I used to think that was exclusive to Tasmania, but no. Another thing I found is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, most people put on a layer. Doesn't matter somewhere or that's when the layering up happens. Well, good morning and good evening to you, Shady Man. So this morning, while we're flying on Pittsburgh Airlines, we're going to discuss why everything on fucking YouTube has to be a fucking conspiracy. I know already I've got a busy day because I filled up my calendar on Friday when I was working. Like, I know what my day entails. So a bit of fly therapy in Pittsburgh Airlines. And I'll get to work for Monday morning, hopefully with less emotional back. The conspiracies of the YouTubes. And no community in particular, because it seems to happen fucking anywhere, but obviously the true crime community are professionals at it. Hi, Pebbles from Texas. How are you, Grover? I saw your comment for Mel's birthday. I was like, I miss Pebbles from Texas. Hello, beautiful. And there's no drinks, Charlie Shady Man. Our budget is very tight, like I was saying, probably before you boarded. And, I mean, the fact that you can all board this plane mid-flight is remarkable. We've only just put wheels on the plane because we discovered wheels make the landings and takeoff a little bit more comfortable. Very tight budget. So, no, I guess none of you read the fine print on the ticket that said bring your own food and water because, and whatever drink, you could bring a keg of beer on board. We don't give a shit about what you bring as long as you bring your own. You're okay? Well, okay is good enough. It's better than shithouse, right? So, yeah, conspiracies. Now, it doesn't have to be YouTube conspiracies. It can just be conspiracies that you've heard that flip your tatas. But for me at the moment, I'm just really keen for a case to happen that YouTubers latch onto purely to discuss, to have a conversation about. There's an investigation, there's an arrest, there's a conviction. We watch it all unravel, and at the end, we discuss. Or, in the case of Kylie Rodney and other missing people, they are found. We are grateful to those who found them. We are relieved they've been returned to their families, and we move on. Your name? Oh, cool. Oh, you've got the slut starting. Very nice. Very nice. YouTube is crazy, Pebbles. I mean, people are anyway. Generally, because it's something productive, highlighting another missing child case, highlighting another cult, the victims and their families, looking at it of the case and what made it interesting. I love you, Shanna. Hello, beautiful. I'm just so exhausted by it because if you mentally exhausted, I'm going to use Kylie Rodney because she's sort of the one that, not to trigger this discussion, because it's something I've talked about a lot on this channel, even before the Kylie Rodney mystery, now solved. But that's one at the moment that is under scrutiny. But any story, you can pick apart every single little detail about it and question everything to make it fit your narrative that there's something evil afoot. There's something evil at play. I'm sorry about my squeaky new windscreen wipers. My last ones were really average, but they didn't make a noise. They've got fancy Bosch. I didn't even know Bosch made windscreen wipers, but they do. Not just the wiper, but the frame as well. I can't believe I've got Bosch wipers on my 2009 Suzuki Swift, but anyway, I do. How fancy am I? I agree 100%. I think that was Shanna who made that comment. Will the rocker. G'day, Groover. I agree 100%. And then, of course, there's the mighty dollar as well. But it's just so pointless. And it's actually disrespectful to the families. And look, if you're going to speculate before there's an outcome, that's fine. We can all ignore speculations and weird opinions. But Chris Watts, for example, case closed and YouTubers still pulling apart everything. Yet the investigators didn't. They moved on. How bizarre. But what I was going to say is if you are going to speculate, there's a really important thing you have to do. And this is where the YouTubers, and not just in the dive bar community I came from, but YouTubers generally, yeah, well, that particular community, there's no moral compass at all. Whatever brings you money, be ridiculous, say ridiculous things, disrespect victims' families, just go for broke. Make out you're more intelligent than the people who investigated it. The ones that got the outcome and moved on. The professionals. Convince hundreds of subscribers that you know better than them and you're onto something. Why don't the subscribers question this shit? I'm starting to be a little devil's avocado wherever I go. I'm starting to actually participate in chats again, because I'm like, even if one person in that chat goes, oh, that's an interesting perspective, I feel like I've done my civic duty. Just a reminder, Groovers, when I'm driving, I think it'll be a bit crawly since it's raining. Visibility is pretty average, so we may not be flying along. But if you do have comments, if you can yell at me in capitals, because the phone is a long way from my face. Yes, exactly, Shady Man. They witch hunt innocent people, and they don't let people rest in peace. So Kylie Rodney one night, what I was saying before, to me, when you speculate and theorise about something, there's a really important thing you've got to do to make your speculation time worthwhile. In my opinion, call me out if you think I'm wrong, but you've got to put yourself in the shoes of the people that were there and what was going on at the time. And Kylie Rodney is a classic example. Teenage kids, underage drinkers possibly, underage drug users possibly, at a party, and something awful happens that they either, if they were aware of it, they're probably scared shitless now, and if they weren't, like, it's quite possible no one had a fucking clue what happened to her. But it is pointless hanging on every word and pulling everything apart and questioning time frames and memories when you're potentially picking apart the evidence of teenagers who were munted as fuck at a party. Hi, beautiful Mandy Hall. I'll give you another example. And I really want to go live about this, but Shady Man and Scout Inquirer are the two people that have expressed the most interest in me covering it. And it's a case closed, but it's a fucking interesting one, because last week in Australia, a piece of shit called Chris Dawson, why are they always Chris's, was convicted of murdering his beautiful wife, Lynette, 40 fucking years ago. And what brought it back into the public arena was a podcast. So I've been ranting on YouTube a bit about people using their platforms for good and be productive, because you just never know what might happen, you know. Adventures with a Purpose, a YouTube channel who do something, found Kylie Rodney, and a podcast in Australia put a cold case, back in the public eye, which led to another investigation. But it was interesting because I was chatting about it with Humanimal on my panel the other day, and she asked a really good question, which was, there's no new evidence 40 years on, so how have they managed to get a conviction now and they didn't back then? Well, the answer is really simple. It's that he wasn't charged 40 years ago, even though all the evidence has led to a guilty verdict. And there are a lot of factors at play. One was he was a white, good-looking athlete with a bit of a public profile. You know, you know how countries fucking adore their sportsmen. They were wealthy. They lived in a very wealthy suburb. It was 1982. He was grooming a teenage student, which is why the podcast is called The Teacher's Pet, which these days, no. And also he had connections in the police department. The cops that were investigating it were his friends that he socialised with and lived next door to. The podcast is amazing, isn't it, Shady Man? How beautiful is Hedley Thomas's voice to listen to? I love you, Will. Have fun with your church group. So when Humanimal asked that question, it was a really good question, but the point is, you've got to rewind to 1982 in Australia and consider that he's a protected species because he's a public adored athlete. He's got buddies in the police force that are investigating. But it was also 40 years ago. So you've got to go back to then and work out why he wasn't charged. And Hedley Thomas in the podcast uncovers all of this. And it's like, this is ludicrous to me. There's enough evidence here to connect all the dots and find him guilty. And Hedley didn't start out saying Chris Dawson is guilty as sin. He was incredibly restrained, even though the judge accused him of bias. But yeah, so we can't impose 2022 things onto a cold case from 40 years ago. You've got to rewind to understand how easily this dude slipped through the net. Yeah, I hope his twin brother cries himself to sleep every night, because I don't think Paul Dawson is any, well, he might be less guilty, but I don't think he's innocent. I think he knew his shit. And then with the Kylie Rodney thing, like, speculate all you want, but if you're going to nitpick a difference in times expressed by two witnesses, and they're both shit-faced possibly, but even if they're not shit-faced, they're teenagers who are all about themselves and don't really give a flying flip about anybody else, let's be honest. You know, a discrepancy in times isn't going to justify years of talking about this case. I mean, the way I look at that is it's just a really tragic and predictable outcome, unfortunately, of a 16-year-old driving at night, possibly, who knows? I mean, if there's toxicology reports, we can talk about whether she was intoxicated or not, but either way, plenty of completely sober people also end up in cars in lakes. But this sort of pulling apart all these different statements, and half of them are from teenage kids who just give a fuck about people noticing them. Now, this is the TikTok generation where they literally just put videos up of themselves dancing and judge their worth as a human being on how many likes they get. Yeah, those kids were groomed, and there's potentially going to be more charges relating to all of that too. But that stuff wouldn't go unnoticed these days. Like, you know, I mean, there were alarm bells going off in 1982 about his student moving in as the live-in babysitter, and then shortly after Lynette went missing, you know, she's living in the house, she's sleeping in the marital bed, she's wearing Lynette's clothing. But that kid is as innocent as Lynette, you know. She's another victim of that horror story, and fuck knows how many more kids potentially were groomed by him as well. But like I said the other day on my live, you know, if we are legitimately interested in true crime, and I am, faux show, and I know you groovers are too, the ones in my chat who follow it, what's the one thing you want as a true crime lover? Outcomes. You want guilty people to be caught and convicted. You want missing people to be found. You want cold cases to be solved. That's what you want. I want John Bonet's killer to be identified before I die. I want Madeleine McCann's story to be solved. I want the Beaumont children in South Australia, that story to be solved, even though, sadly, both of the parents, I think, are no longer with us. Oh, tip for the pilot, thank you. Everyone wants to be an investigator. It is mad. And the one thing we all know for sure is we, the public, do not deserve to be presented with every single bit of evidence and witness statement and Like they're investigating on half-assed information. It blows my mind how much information can be released in America because the privacy laws in Australia, no. I mean, even the the teenage schoolgirl in the Chris Dawson case, like everybody knows her name because she is named in the podcast and she's spoken out about it, and she was the star witness for the prosecution. But in court, because she was a minor at the time of all the offending of Chris Dawson, she was referred to by her initials. But that's how strict our privacy laws are. Those privacy rules and procedures are followed even when most people know her name because she's been public about it. But oh, you got into Dali too. Yeah, the little kid cases are depressing, but I'd love an outcome. Like I am denied about the Madeline McCann case. But no, they're incredibly depressing. But, it's also depressing that YouTubers are milking the death of a 16-year-old to put the most horrible theories out there. And all the little ones that are speculating, we're just speculating. And it's like, but you're not putting yourself in the shoes of the kids who are at that party. You're speculating as someone sitting online who's followed criminal cases, and you think you're an expert on it, or you've got some little tidbit of information or some little discrepancy that's going to blow this story out of the water. But you can't look at it that way. You can't look at it as a privileged, middle-aged person sitting at a computer in a living room in a warm and cozy house or a beautifully air-conditioned house. You've got to put yourself in the shoes of the kids at that party and think outside that box. And just think about the bare basic facts that if they were all paralytic, you're relying on their memories. Some of them are dealing with losing a person they cared about, probably for the first time in their lives. And when she was missing, they're probably worried sick. But then throw in also that generation loves the media attention and the social media look at me bullshit. And if one of them let her drive knowing she was off her face, well, they're going to feel like shit for the rest of their life. But they don't owe these privileged middle-aged fatties sitting behind their computers analysing every fucking word anything. And if the investigators are getting little, if their hinky meter's going off and they're getting a little feeling that something's amiss, do you think they're not looking into it? Oh, no, Kaylee Anthony, that was so horrific. And Casey, she's got the same bad vibe that comes off her that Amber Heard's got. I only had that thought the other day because I can't stand the energy that comes off Amber Heard is repelling. Like, I was never really that interested in her even before the trial earlier this year, except for the apology to Australia for compromising our biosecurity. But, she wasn't an actor that I felt inclined to follow. And I didn't know that much about her, but there's an energy that comes off her, and it's the same as Casey Anthony. It's fucking awful. Same as Jodi Arias, or Arias, like, Dodo! You're about to start on the Lighthouse podcast. I don't know if I know that one. Just going to pay attention for a while because we're in Roadworks Central. We are actually flying past the airport at the moment, the real airport. I don't know the Guy Hines case either. Yeah, Delphi. Hey, why? Yeah, the unsolved ones, and especially, children, and then what their families are going through. And that's why I don't understand why we can't just celebrate an outcome like Kylie Rodney's family are not left wondering where the fuck she is. Lynette Dawson's children are not going to spend the rest of their life believing their mother abandoned them like their father, who murdered her, told them she had. Why aren't we going live and talking about these amazing outcomes? I mean, I will be talking about Chris Dawson because the social media aspect to that trial as well is just fascinating. The problem is my two subs who are into this case the most, I cannot find a time of day where I'm available to go live where both of them can tune in. That's what I was trying to say earlier, Shady Man. So I think you guys are going to have to watch some replays. But what I might do too is just do some videos rather than lives, and do some lives as well, because I'd really love to have a panel discussion. But we could not be in the worst 3 time zones to sync together. Like, it's, unless I go live for me at like 4 in the morning, and as much as I love you guys, I'm just not able to do that. I love my sleep. Well, I need my sleep. But why aren't YouTubers going, oh my God, she's been found, Kylie's been found, or thank fuck Chris Dawson is guilty and they're going to lock him up and throw out a key and he's going to die in jail. Like, he's going to get a heavy sentence, no doubt about it. He's already in his 70s. Celebrate it and then move on to the next one that needs a solution. Highlight cold cases. I mean, my channel's tiny and I still want and feel inspired to look at cold cases, because you just don't know who might tune in and go, holy shit, I actually know something about that case. I might call the cops. 20 years ago, I was terrified to tell anyone what I know, but I feel like I'm ready to do that. You just don't know. I mean, AWP are pretty confident about finding people because they've got a good track record, but they don't know that they're going to. And they hope that they're going to. And when they do, let's celebrate them. Don't do 50 million lives saying, oh, they're using this story for money. They put their video, which they made publicly available 3 days later, they put it behind a membership paywall, and all these people are going to sign up to see it 3 days before anyone else is. Really? I mean, if somebody did, they really, really wanted to see it before anyone else did. I waited. Give subscribers some fucking credit for having their own brains. And also, how about you just let them do whatever the fuck they want to do with the money they earn? What's it to you? And then the ones that didn't have a problem with showing it to members only for the first 3 days, pulled them apart because of comments that they made that were socially irresponsible. And, you know, it's not okay for a man who's literally just found a dead teenager in a car underwater. One of the first things he says when he comes up is, it looks suspicious to me. Let's pull that sentence apart for hours on end. How about showing some compassion for this guy who's just found a dead teenage girl in the back of her car underwater? But no. Let's talk about how these divers have some sort of social responsibility to think about every word that comes out of their mouth, because God forbid a YouTuber latches onto it and makes them look out to be assholes. But then does the same standard apply to you YouTubers? for all the things that you get wrong, all the people you falsely accuse, all the money you make off cases? Are you trained in media? Do you want us all to place the same expectations on you? I seriously could do reaction videos and go live for years, pointing out every factual error a YouTuber makes, or a dangerous speculation, or a socially irresponsible comment. No one's holding you to be accountable because you're just a YouTuber. And I'm not pinning a comment made by a diver who's just found a deceased child. I'm not going to pull that apart because he's not trained in media. You think it's socially irresponsible? Fine. So the people that are calling them, I mean, it just. Yes, we're in the child-free community, cement shoes. Yay us, hey? Actually, I am. I'm going to put a suggestion. Our gym has a suggestion box. Um, it was Father's Day yesterday. I don't know if I know one day is out of sync. Was it Father's Day for you guys yesterday too? Anyway, Mother's Day for us is May. Father's Day is now, and yesterday. And not having either parent, I really don't like those days. In fact, I didn't like them when I had my parents because my mum was very anti-Hallmark holidays. But also not being a parent, I just find those days really fucking annoying. I mean, good on all of you parents out there. I hope you all had a great day. But when you don't have parents and you're not a parent, they're just like, and Mother's Day actually physically hurts me. Like it makes me sad still. But I'm going to suggest to the gym because on Mother's Day and Father's Day, all the gym members that are mums and dads get a free hot beverage, like a free coffee. Oh, your Father's Day is June. Yeah, I know, cement shoes. I'm still wrapping you in big hugs. It's fucking hard. My mum's birthday and the anniversary of her death, weirdly, people expect me to fall apart and I don't. But Mother's Day just cuts. Like it cuts like a knife. It's awful. I feel like you're being punched in the guts. It's awful. And I avoid things like Facebook because you've got people on there going, I bought my mum a beautiful watch and took her out to lunch and she didn't even say thank you. And I'm like, what I would give to have my mum being a rude bitch because she didn't like the watch I gave her. But I'm going to suggest to the gym that they give a free hot beverage to people on International Child Free Day because that is now a thing. And I'm going to say to them, like, if you want to be this sort of all embracing, accepting diversity gym, then move with the times. Like you have members that are not parents and who don't have their parents. And these days are shit to them. So what about a free cuppa for the child-free gym members? Because there's a shitload of us. And let's see what they say. I know there's so many fucking Hallmark days. And look, International Child-Free Day isn't really hallmarky. Like there aren't cards or anything like that. We all just in the child-free communities just go yay us and woo. But my point is free cup is for everyone. If you're going to do it for some, then you got to do it for all, right? Let's see what the gym says. Be focusing a bit now because I'm heading across the Tasman Bridge. I don't know if Japan has Mother's Day. It's a good point. Japan's on my bucket list because that was the trip I was meant to do in 2020, and then this little global pandemic rolled on in and put an end to international travel for quite a while. But yeah, Japan's still on my bucket list, although Singapore's my next overseas trip in January. Very fucking excited about that. I'll go live from Singapore. Thank you, Shady Man. Yeah. And I think Child Free Day is like, if from memory in my groups, it was only like a month or two ago. Like, it wasn't that long ago. But yeah, if you're going to give free coffees to fathers and mothers, then give ones to the child free. Because a shitload of child free people actually chose not to have children because there's enough children on the planet and people on the planet already. I mean, a lot of them just didn't want to have kids. And then there's a heap who did but couldn't. And I just think, give us a free coffee, you fucks. Don't brag about, oh, we're going green and, you know, we're implementing all this stuff at the gym that's great for the climate. I mean, look, my gym's fabulous. They're not assholes. I haven't even told them this idea yet. But I'm just saying, you know, if you're going to be all forward thinking and green and clean and green and everything else, then maybe a coffee for the people that are actively not adding to overpopulation. Maybe they need a little reward. In fact, make mine an Irish coffee, thank you. Whack in a bit of whiskey, thanks. It's a pleasant 7 degrees in Hobart Town. It's 7:40 a.m. I'm being tailgated by a beige Mercedes. Who spends that much money on a car and gets beige? Like, for real. It's the colour of the stockings that your teachers wore when you were at school. Those nude, well, they weren't nude though, because you could clearly tell they were not natural leg colour. Those thick, allegedly nude stockings that were really thick tights and they're more beige. Why would you spend so much money on a car and get a car that is the colour of a cotton gusset on a pair of tights? I'd like a brandy Irish coffee, okay? Scout! Hey! See, look, you two are in chat at the same time, okay? Mental note, Tori. I do Chris Dawson at 7 a.m. Although it won't be until Thursday that I could do a 7 a.m. live. Wow. I mean, that's now reminiscent of me going on fucking Armchair Detective at 7 in the morning without a bra on. I mean, I had clothing on. But he was telling the world a friend of mine was in the courtroom on this particular day in the Chris Watts fucking saga. And it wasn't her. And I was like, oh, bloody... I was in his chat saying, you're wrong. And the next thing he's like, oh, email Bubbles. So I emailed Bubbles. Bubbles sent me a link and I'm like, fuck. I'm out of bed. I'm just out of bed. I haven't washed my face. I haven't brushed my teeth. I'm not wearing a bra. But I'll go up. And then I cammed up. Hello, world, I said. That's what I'll do for a friend. You know, you got to grab the opportunity, seize the moment. You can't fluff around. You'll miss it, and then you'll kick yourself for the rest of your life. So up I went. No shame in my game. That was funny, the AD thing. Oh, God, some of his people were so scathing of me and critical, and I'm like, I'm just speaking the truth. You got the wrong girl. Can you stop doxing my friend? Because I'm putting up photos from her Facebook with her grandchildren, and it was just ludicrous. And they God forbid, I just point out they might be on the wrong track. No bra, major day. Well, honestly, if I take my bra off, my boobs don't move anywhere. Another benefit of not having children. Unlike my friends who did, who all describe their boobs as things like fillets, kippers, like long and floppy and all the rest of it. I still have quite the perky bosom for a 55-year-old lady. Some days I don't even know why I wear a bra. I mean, some days I do because there are certain outfits that don't look good without it. But I have no qualms going to the shop without a bra on if it be a fine day and I'm wearing the right thing. Some things braless don't look right. Like, at the gym, for example, a sports bra is definitely an essential item, especially if I'm doing anything that requires jumping and bouncing. Shady Man, yours are fried eggs. See, everyone's got descriptions of their tatas. I like to just say mine are quite perky because I didn't have children, babies, latched onto them. And most of my girlfriends who had kids miss their boobs pre-babies. They do. They do. If you didn't wear a bra, you'd be standing on your nips. Ouch. Impressive, Mandy. I'm not going to the Lonely Brick. If my spot with the natural light that helps me apply makeup is available, that is where I'm parking. The Lonely Brick Park, there's no natural light. Well, there is, but it's dim. I don't want to be gothic at work. Although I've got a really cute little it's going to be cold today, and our office is always really cold on Mondays because the heating hasn't been on for 2 days over the weekend. And our offices are fucking cold. Like, I have worked thank God we mainly do phone appointments. I've been sitting at my desk in like my full warm jacket, beanie, scarf, fingerless gloves. Like, that's how cold it is. So I've got this really bulky black turtleneck jumper on that I love. It's so warm. And then I've got this little chocolate brown corduroy mini skirt on and black tights and brown boots. And I'm all snuggly. Why was I telling you that? I do not know. I'll probably just that I'm excited that I've got another corduroy out. Oh, you don't have kids either, Mandy? Yeah, hey. I get a bit excited. Just like parents go, oh, you're a mum too. See, look, there's my park waiting for me. Lonely Brick's further along. It's actually not even a brick either. It's glue from where an old reserve sign has fallen off. No, we're not allowed to have heaters in our offices because it messes with the central heating. Apparently, I used to have a heater in my room. We're the same age too. We're twins, Mandy Hall. We're sisters from different misters, although you got the boobs. But no, we're not allowed to have heaters because I did have a heater because of how cold my office was. But according to building CEO, the central heating plays up when people have, like, it fucks with the thermostat and impacts the entire building, allegedly. No, the miniskirt's actually brown. So I've got a black turtleneck jumper, a brown, it's slightly A-line, that sort of 60s look, miniskirt, and then I've got black tights, and then I've got brown boots. It's a black and brown combo. You've got a twin sister. I've got so many twins in my life. That's not surprising. There's another one. Did she get boobs? Because my friend Laura, who's been on my channel a bit, not for a long time, but has been on it before, she is an identical twin, and Laura has gigantic boobs, and Jane, who's got 4 kids, never had boobs unless she was pregnant. Man is having a sneaky smoke. Oh, over there. Oh, Shady Man's got a twin brother. Look at you, twinnies. That's so cool. Are there any other twins? Two, and 10 people in chat, and 2 of you have twins. I'm impressed. I always thought if I'd had children, and I A, couldn't, and B, didn't want to. Well, I mean, I did when I was young because I thought I was meant to, but then when I realised I could choose not to, I was like, well, that's a choice I might make. Only because all my friends who had children were not exactly having the time of their lives. And I wanted to travel and live overseas and be a responsible and a free spirit. So kids didn't really fit in. So you're not identical, Mandy. I'm not going to be the dumb YouTuber. I can't remember who it was who asked someone when they said they were a twin and they were female and they had a twin brother. If they were identical, I'm not going to do that. You're unique. Yes, I like that approach, Scout. But yeah, we've got so many twins in our family, and you know, I was certain if I had children, there'd be twins in the mix. And I've got so many friends, and I've got two sets of twins, godchildren of mine. I've got lots of friends with twins. I've got a friend with triplets too. That's kooky. One of my friends, when she had twins, she said, I can't even imagine just having one. She said, it just wouldn't have been entertaining enough for me. So she had her twins and that was it, done, dusted. She wanted 2 kids. But then so many of my friends have got twins now that it's like, but do you have triplets? Or Hey, did you guys hear about the YouTubers who, another one of those families that is big because they prank their kids? I don't know if they're on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, but they had twins. They've got twins, and they did, I think it might have been their birthday, the twins' birthday, and they did a video and they said, and let's not forget your deceased triplet. And it turns out they didn't have triplets. And I'm pretty sure because it caused an outrage about, parents pranking their children about a deceased triplet that didn't exist and how it was akin to child abuse and all, the usual reaction. And I think they had to pull all their stuff down. I can't remember what platform they were on, but there seems to always be a pranking family that, remember that one probably back in 2019, the family that were actually accused of child abuse because of the pranks of their kids. Like they'd do shit to their kids and then laugh at them, and everyone on social media on YouTube would go, oh, this is hilarious, and they got taken down. So yeah, let's not tell small children on their birthday that we've also got to celebrate the birthday of the deceased triplet. Because people did not find that funny. I think the children were oblivious, but The social justice warriors and the politically correct jumped onto that one. It was funny yesterday. A friend of mine called me and we were just chatting away, and she said to me, "Do you know who really pisses me off? The type of person who really pisses me off these days?" I was like, "Who?" And she said, "People who get offended on behalf of other people." And I'm like, "Why are you watching my YouTube channel? I bitch about this shit all the time. Justine, get onto YouTube. My kindred spirit." I mean, we've got a lot in common. We're friends already. I'm just putting on my foundation and powder. That's why I'm not reading chat. I'll read in a minute. You know the drill, groovers. But yeah, I was stoked. I'm like, when you already adore someone and they're already a really close friend, and then they're getting irritated about the same thing you are. I was like, Justine, seriously, get onto YouTube. I bitch about those assholes all the time. Although now I'm having a crack at the conspiracy. And I'm sick of people that are doing conspiracy theories going, we're just speculating. It's like, no, you're milking someone else's tragedy. How about you just wait? You know, some of the information you're discussing might actually come out at some point, and when it does, go for broke. But can we just wait a little bit? And can we maybe let the family grieve a little bit? What did Wise say? My father, oh, that's terribly sad. Why? Oh, at age 19. Much love, why? Shady Man has a twin and married a twin. They did break the mold when Our Beautiful Scout was made. You have a brother. Oh, there's 2 sets of twins in your family. How cool, Mandy. That's really cool. 1967 was a big year for twins. 12 sets of twins in our year at school. So you're another 1967 baby too. God, we're groovers. Look at us all. Oh, there's Hallmark cards for twins? Jesus. I know war stories are just... When we went and saw 1927 last weekend, not the weekend we just had, the one before, one of those songs is called Compulsory Hero, which Scout would know because I put her onto them and she loves them. And there's a line in it that's just so simple and people sing along to it, but it really cuts through for me, which is it's something like they're dying just to find a way home. And you know, like when people say, oh, I'm dying for Christmas to get here when I get to see all my family, like when people use dying in that context. So when he sings that line, you know, they're dying just to find a way home. A lot of people probably just think, you know, they just want to get out of the war and head home. They don't realize that they're literally dying. That's how they get to go home, by dying. And it cuts through me every time I hear him sing that line. I don't know if you have the same. And it's such a simple little sentence in a song that I just think so many people miss the meaning in that. Which isn't, you know, I mean, everyone interprets songs and lyrics their own way, and some people do conspiracy theories about song lyrics too, because everyone in the world's meant to be perfect except the person who's critical of them. But yeah, that line, just every time I sing it, it's it just makes me so sad to think that they literally had to die to be able to go home. You do. I knew you would. I knew you would. Another sister of another mister. It just cuts deep. I mean, it's still sad and poignant if you interpret it a different way, but when you realise that, yeah, it's a literal sentence. It's just so sad. That urge to go home when you're just traveling overseas and having the time of your life, and how deeply that feels. And then in a war, oh my God, those poor kids are just fodder. Can't even imagine how parents of those kids felt. You know, there was that sort of patriotic argument, you know, you do this for your country, and previous generations have also fought in wars, and yet they're just packing up their babies and sending them off into the world. Little teenagers, you know, that fucked up. I hate wars. We lost family members like many people did. Some came home too, which was awesome, including my grandfather. Otherwise, I wouldn't even exist. But the things that he saw and experienced completely redefined the life that he had. And again, you know, there's that trauma that people experience in life because of horrible things that are going on in their worlds, that these YouTubers just don't show any regard for. They just exploit it. They don't take a step back and say, let's just be patient and wait and see if an investigation kicks off, or, you know, if there's more information. Instead, they just speculate for hours and hours and hours at a time and watch the money roll in, whilst criticising other people who actually found a missing child of being paid, and just no humility or even an acknowledgement of what the family might be going through. They just keep putting out all these theories, and some of them are just, they're so scathing and critical of teenagers that might have just been drunk and don't have a great memory of what happened that night. And you could take anything, any interview, any article, and rip it to shreds sentence by sentence. Anything. You could do it with, I don't know, the American Constitution. You could do it with with the Cat in the Hat. You could, I mean, I'm trained to twist the English language to suit my clients' needs. And I don't do it because it's pointless. And then if down the track information does come out that is completely different to what these YouTubers have been speculating, where's the humility? Where's the live that they admit they got it wrong? They don't. They just act like, oh no, I've moved on. I'm covering a new case now. They don't even have the decency to admit that their theory that they drummed into people for months and years on end was wrong. They just, oh, now we're going, oh, there's a missing person. We're just going to move on to that now. Or let's do a retrospective and let's pull up an old case and talk about that for years. Here we go. It's a case about a man called Chris Watts who annihilated his family. You know, like, just show some humility. Admit you got it wrong. I had this theory. It was speculative. It was based on my own beliefs, not based on facts or evidence. It was wrong. Sorry, guys. But, you know, that's what we do. But no, they don't do that. They just move on and act like nothing ever happened. Your dad was a gunner in a Lancaster bomber during World War II. He wouldn't talk about it. He lost lots of friends. Yeah, my grandfather didn't talk about it much, um, except for Anzac Day, and out would come medals, and he'd explain what they were and why he had them, but he didn't talk about what he saw. And I mean, I don't think that necessarily they'd want to tell their children because they already are aware of how traumatic it was on them because they were literally children when they went off to war. I think that's why, sort of in Australia, we've got return service leagues and facilities and support networks and so on where they can talk and share their experiences. I think most of them want to spare their loved ones from the horrors they saw. My best friend's father was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He didn't talk about it, no. And a lot of them do go silent. I mean, we've still got such a long way to go in terms of supporting our returned servicemen and women, and also, families of people who lose their lives, and also families of people who make it home. There's a lot more now than there used to be, but we can still do better. But it's a bit like, I mean, on a completely different scale, but like even when I had my burnout a few years ago and suddenly had an anxiety issue that I'd never dealt with before, I I spoke with other friends and people I knew that had had a similar thing happen to them. I didn't talk to my healthy, happy friends that were just getting on with their lives because I didn't understand until it happened to me, and I felt that I'd been a bit dismissive of, or not dismissive's not the right word. I'm always there for my friends, but I misunderstood how debilitating some anxiety disorders can be. And then I'm in that boat, and I didn't want to inflict that on people that hadn't experienced it. I talked to people that had or had an understanding of it. Because you don't want to be judged, and you don't want someone tell you to tell you to get over it or snap out of it, like somebody did when I started grieving for my mother. Like, I went out to dinner with a group of friends only a couple of weeks after she died, and I was pretty quiet that night. And one of my, I thought, best friends at the table said, "What's biting your ass tonight? Why are you so quiet?" And I was like, "I don't know, it might just be a bit of grief for my mum." "Yeah, you probably need to get over it." "Yeah, no, I probably need to delete you from my life." I didn't delete her from my life, weirdly, and I suspect when the time comes and her mum dies that she might actually have a moment of reflection and self-awareness and realise what a stupid thing that was to say to me. I'm not mad at her for it. She didn't know. But you know what I mean? Like with returnees from wars and people that are experiencing a new disease or illness or death or whatever it might be, you tend to gravitate towards those who understand. The problem I had was that none of my friends had lost a mother when my mum died. So I didn't really have a confidant of sorts with someone who helped me through that. But luckily for me at the time, I was heavily involved in the comedy world, and it was during the Adelaide Fringe Festival, and I got a lot of incredible support from some really lovely comedians who just gave me the right advice and held my hand through it all. No, there's not, and she'll realise that one day. Yeah, see, I didn't instantly unfriend. I kind of was crushed at the time, and obviously still think about it. But I put myself in her shoes, and I realised she wasn't coming from a place of hurt or like nastiness. She was coming from a place of ignorance. She has apologised for the get over it comment because I think someone from memory at that dinner actually said to her, "That's not cool. Like, her mum literally died 2 weeks ago. Like, what the fuck?" But yeah, I put myself in her shoes and I didn't lose her. And she's still a really precious friend to me, but she will probably lean on me a lot when her mum dies. And she'll also possibly remember what a stupid thing she said when she was a lot younger. But I don't blame her for it. Like I said, she doesn't know yet. Losing my parents has derailed my life. I haven't left the house except for funerals and doctor appointments since. Look, cement shoes, just be gentle. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You just do, one of the best bits of advice I got, speaking of comedians and stuff giving me advice, was whatever you're doing is right and do whatever you feel like doing. If you want to scream, scream. If you want to punch something, punch something. If you don't want to leave the house, don't leave the house. And the other bit of advice I got out of a book that I read, which was a Japanese, no, sorry, it wasn't. Was it a Japanese book or was it the Dalai Lama? Um, the other thing that really helped me cement shoes was a quote that the Japanese look at grief in a couple of ways. One is you picture yourself like a reed in a pond and you just go wherever the wind or the water moves you. And you trust you're going to be okay because you're rooted into the soil, like you're grounded, even though you don't feel like you are. But you just go in whatever direction the wind or the water takes you, which is, if you want to scream, scream. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to laugh, laugh. And the other one is that they look at grief like, picture a Japanese house with wooden shutters and the shutters are closed shut when somebody dies. So the room that you're in is pitch black. It's really dark, as you would know. Over time, you get to a point where where you feel like you want to start letting the sunlight back in and just a tiny bit at a time, like a millimetre at a time, gradually over time, and it can be months, years, decades, those shutters start to open and let in a little bit of light, and then they open a bit more, and gradually that keeps happening, and they end up being wide open, and the room is full of sunshine, but you're still in that room, which is grief. Like you're still in that place, even when the room is now full of sunshine and no longer in total darkness. But it's a process and it takes time, and you've just got to be that little reed and just keep going wherever the wind and the water takes you. But everything that you're going through is fine and it's awful, but you will, after a while, those shutters will start to open and a little bit of light will start coming in. I promise you. I promise you. Oh yeah, my comments were always highlighted with grammatical errors too, or a tweet with a typo in it would be my most popular tweet. It used to do my head in. It does hurt, Mandy. It does. Losing parents is incredibly hard. But the thing is, we all will lose our parents and we can all look after each other. The Dalai Lama quote I was thinking of was, which inspired me to keep going, and now it is the role I seem to play, and I'm happy to do it, was you do at some point, you are confronted with a choice, which is either to, and this is a long way down the track, cement shoes are not relating to you at all. It just, I found this quote at a time that it worked for me. And it said you've been through an incredible loss and your heart is broken and you're still feeling incredible pain. You can actually channel that pain and energy into being there for the next person who goes through it. And that's what I've done. I've used my experience to help others, and I've got a best friend who's just lost her mum, and I'm the one that can say inappropriate things on the phone, a bit of dark humour, and get her laughing, and she needs to laugh at the moment. But also just the fact that I understand is huge. We do. We offer love, support, and a shoulder to cry on, and we've got Sunny as well to make us laugh. Put that red lippy on. I've actually put on lipstick, which I'm looking at the moment, is not dissimilar to the colour of the Mercedes that was tailgating me, although it has got a bit of pink in it, but it is a bit beigey. But I'm wearing brown, you know. I've worn brown to town. Speaking of town, I'm here for a reason. I'm going to work today, so I'm going to wrap this baby up. Ah, someone's just gone live talking about Kylie Rodney. Did some more information come out overnight? Probably not. Go, you good thing. Discuss it. Fuck me dead. Scout is awesome. You're all awesome. I told you that the other day, Shady Man, when you said Scout's lovely. Hey, Joey, rolling on in just in time to say, see you later. You're welcome. Why? You're very welcome. And Cement Shoes, much love to you. Thanks, Dodo. Yeah, have a great day, Groovers. Wherever you are, whatever you do, don't be a conspiracy theorist and don't pretend that you're speculating because you're not. You're theorizing with a conspiracy under the surface. If you're speculating, it's because you've got new facts in front of you. Go for broke. And remember, don't get scammed. I've really struggled to find someone to catfish, a scammer to catfish. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It'll probably fucking happen in summer when I want to be on the beach all day. Off to work for you too, Joey. It's so cute that you're excited. You can say that now. That's lovely. I'm proud of you, girl. God, my glasses are filthy. How on earth have I ever been able to drive, let alone see the chat and stuff? I better attend to them as well. Have a good one, everyone. And I don't know, if you do stumble into a live and someone's just, you know, talking endlessly about a case and there's no new facts or info that warrants another 20-hour live, just, I don't know, just speak up and say, what the hell? Can we wait for more info? Can you just calm your tits for a minute, you know? I'm starting to speak up. I mean, if I get blocked, good, because they're not the sort of people I want to hang out with long term anyway. But I just can't sit back anymore and say nothing. Case closed. Move on. There are missing people out there. There are cold cases out there. Get onto them. You could be the podcast that leads to a guilty conviction. You could be the creator that stumbles across the car and locates a missing teenager. You can be that person. What's stopping you? Yeah, but I don't care if I get blocked, really. Like, if that's how they respond to people trying to incite discussion and conversation and looking at things from a different angle, they're not worth following or being around. Like, I'm happy to just go in and say my bit. And if that's what they do to me, I'm like, well, you're not my people anyway. My friends at a dinner party around the table in my house, we all talk about stuff and we've all got different points of view and opinions, and it's fascinating and you learn things and it incites you to delve into things that you haven't looked into before. Like, it's nothing but positive. And I'm treating YouTube the same way. And if I go to a dinner party and everyone's all just singing Kumbaya in agreement with each other, I'm fucking leaving before entree, because it's probably going to be some vegan shit anyway. And on that note, have a great day, especially if you're a vegan. And I'll see you all again very soon. Love you guys.